What's up, everybody? My name is John. This is another episode of Daddy Confessions. Tonight, I have two of my friends from different eras of my life, but still very important people to me. You know what I'm saying? They bring a lot to the table. People I look to often for advice about being a daddy. So I'll let them introduce themselves. Ty, you go ahead. You introduce yourself first, please.
Yeah. My name is Ty. I am actually from the DMV area, but now living in the Charlotte area. I am a father of four kids. Sorry, I got to think about it, y'all. A father of four kids from a blended family, actually a double blended family. I'm pretty sure I may get into that later, depending on if John asks me that or not. But I am the proud owner of Relationship Entertainment Television, which is a streaming television network promoting positive entertainment 24/7, 365. But that's not about me right now. We're going to talk about daddy stuff. But yeah, I'm a proud father of four.
Cool. All right, T.
And my name is Tunde. Proud father of two, Shadi, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old Wale. Live here in New York, specifically in Queens, and I'm just excited to be here.
Cool. Yeah, so I know Tunde from high school, and Ty is actually best friend of my wife when we met, and
We just
Ty.
adopted.
But Tunde, did he tell you the crazy part about it? Did he tell you the crazy part about it? I actually grew up on the same block his mother lived on.
Yep.
Wow.
And
literally, I knew his cousin.
Yep. Friends with my cousin. Well, not really friends with my cousin, but know people that I know. You know what I'm saying?
There you go.
So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. So yeah. So it made it okay for me to continue dating my wife after I realized we had some.
You got some connection.
Common, because it was a little iffy there for a minute. So tonight, these guys are going to join me in having a conversation about, raising our sons. Ty's got a lot of them. You know what I'm
saying? Great.
You ain't lying. I do. I got 3.
Yeah.
I mean, two is more than enough. Like So T, you lucked out. Only having one.
One of each.
Yo, I used to say I wanted that. Now I say I don't want. No, I love my kids. I love my kids.
But you realize when you have multiples, they all got different personalities. Yeah. Even if whether it's all straight boys, boy, girl, all girls, whatever, they all got different personalities, and it's all crazy.
It is.
But my boys are something else. So, to say the least. But they funny. They're some funny kids. So so we're gonna talk a little bit about raising boys, and not to forget about the elephant in the room. You know what I'm saying? This is being recorded on January the 8th. Okay, so January the 8th, that's 2 days after we had the attack on the Capitol. The terrorist attack on the Capitol that happened.
Oh, you're not gonna call it a protest? I thought.
No, I'm not calling it a protest. You know what I'm saying? I will say this. I started off calling it a riot.
Oh.
And then I started thinking to myself, I was like, yeah, nah, you know what? That's getting off easy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
let's
call it what it is.
It is in fact
call it what it is.
It's a terrorist attack on the Capitol. And one of the questions that I had was really around that. It's a very interesting kind of time that we live in. You know what I'm saying? You see the memes, people talking about, this, that, and the other thing, like 2020 still going into 2021. We living in some crazy times, right? So the question is, first, how did it make you feel?
Go ahead, Tunde.
I mean, it's a loaded question, right? I think what's interesting, I probably should step back and say, out of all the negativity that's really surrounded, whether it's the riots, George Floyd murders, I think what's been interesting, at least within my job, so I work for Ralph Lauren, and I work in the corporate side. And for a company as big as ours, a lot of times, a situation like this gets swept under the rug. And we've actually, based on the what's happening, we've actually created a Black Advisory Council within the company, which is interesting because you wouldn't expect that in a company like this. And then we've been able to really establish roundtables to be able to have or build communities for us to be able to have these conversations. So soon after what happened, we actually had a roundtable yesterday, and we had over 1,000 people actually log into Zoom and have a conversation about how they're feeling. Now, what's interesting is, my brother lives in Tacoma, right there in the middle. He just had a baby. And, he had a baby just a couple weeks ago, and he's kind of looking at himself and saying, like, what are we doing? Like, I'm bringing a child into a place like this. And, outside of the fact that he's also, mixed, he's also worried about what is that going to mean in terms of identity? How is he going to be received? Is this the right thing we should do as parents? So he's questioning himself just as a father, mind you, a new father too. So that's just how crazy it is. But going back to the roundtable, what's interesting is that it gave me an opportunity to slow down, because while I was getting texts and reading up on what was going on, it didn't really give me a chance to stop and really digest it. So having this roundtable gave me an opportunity to really feel what everybody was feeling, and gave me a chance to really, it gave me a chance to really embrace the anger that I had, because a lot of times as Black men, I feel like we just suppress those feelings, right? It's like you gotta suppress those feelings. It happens. Nobody's surprised, but I got work to do. And then all of a sudden, you just keep holding these feelings together, and then boom, you blow up, and people, question why you are an angry Black man. So for me, it's disappointing. There's a lot of anger, frustration. I'm ready to turn the page, and it seems like, they aren't, the people that want to be progressive aren't really allowing us to do that. And I'm tired of it, like most people are.
That's you bring up a very good point there when you mentioned suppressing feelings.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I necessarily suppress my feelings, but I am one of those people who is not in shock by everything that's happened. Because a lot of people seem to forget that this is nothing new.
Right.
The attack or on the Capitol, was something that was only happened maybe once or twice in the history of the United States. But the racism and stuff that we deal with, the inequalities that we've been dealing with, is nothing new. And a lot of people are acting like just because, George Floyd died, don't get me wrong, respecting him, may he rest in peace and so forth. Sandra Bland, all of them, Maud Arbery, all of them, may they all rest in peace. But this is nothing new based on their deaths. Right. This is something that our parents, our grandparents, our great grandparents, and so forth have been dealing with for a very long time. And so I honestly, I don't get surprised by when I see people show their true colors. Right. And the fact that people have not changed the way that we expect them to have changed, because we have marched, because we have protested, and so on and so forth. So when they call us, monkeys, they call us out of our names, and they shoot us, or they hit us with batons, and yet they allowed them to straight up attack the Capitol with no resistance, and they turned a blind eye and so forth. It does not surprise me. Do I think that every white person's bad? No. It's like not every Black person's a thug. There are some white thugs, there are some Black thugs, there are some idiots out there who are just plain idiots. So I think, does it affect me? Oh, heck yeah, it affects me like crazy. But I try not to give it too much special attention, outside of the fact of being aware of my surroundings, who I surround myself with, who my kids surround themselves with, making sure that they know, their heritage and are proud of their heritage, and know how to conduct themselves, that they are not putting themselves in situations to potentially, be shot or killed or whatever. And if they are, because we already know a lot of times we don't put ourselves in situations. Some stuff, it just happens. A lot of people who died last year, it just happened. They didn't do anything in 9 times out of 10. but how to conduct yourselves when you're in a situation such as being pulled over by the police or being walking the street and somebody walking up to you calling you the N-word or whatever the case may be. That it affects me in those ways more so than watching idiots on TV be exactly who and what they are, idiots. It doesn't surprise, or I don't get any rise out of that.
But Ty, aren't you surprised? I mean, aren't you surprised at the level of back in the day, like when people were racist, they were like racist undercover. Like you would kind of hear whispers of it, you kind of hear it on the side, but you rarely got it where it was up front, like it was blatant. And it was I feel like now it's starting to become commonplace, and with that that's the fear for me is we know it's always been there, but there's almost been this security blanket that we've almost had between each other, right? Now it's like, okay, it's okay to be this racist because, hey, look, I can literally go into the Capitol where most people can't even jog around. Mm-hmm. I can literally I could put my foot on the desk of the Speaker of the House and I'm fine. Like that, it's almost like once you push, like kids, like once you push, they want to see how far they can go before like all of a sudden it's like anarchy. Like, is there a fear of that?
Yo, can I let me speak. I'll speak to that because I think that it's a very interesting point you make, T, and it is one that I think is so. So I remember this vividly. Like I think about it all the time. It is this kind of saying that I heard growing up, and I still think it holds true. The difference between Northern racism and Southern racism is that in the North, you don't know who doesn't like you,
right?
And in the South, they'll tell you.
Yeah. Very much
and so many people will say they rather be in the South, where they at least know who the racist is, versus the North, where you could live next door to them your whole life, and you might find something rubbed on your door. You know what I'm saying? You don't know who did. But
lo and behold, it's your neighbor the whole time.
It's your neighbor the whole time. You know what I'm saying? And so part of me is like, I like knowing that the devil is there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I like knowing that. I like knowing who my enemy is versus that hidden enemy. And so from that perspective of it, I have always been one. So, just kind of a quick side note, my mother is a huge conspiracy theory. Like, it's a running joke in my house about how my mother got a conspiracy for everything. You know what I'm saying? Love her to death. Some of it rubbed off on me, but to go along with that is you see situations like this, and what you know is that the racism is there. But what you don't know is how deep it runs, right? And what we found out very quickly during this past Wednesday was how deep it ran. It runs into the halls.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly
to the point where there were police officers taking selfies.
Yeah.
Where they were moving. I know y'all saw the video of them breaking the window with a riot shield.
With the riot shield. Exactly.
Where you get a riot shield from?
From the police. But and if you saw the video, this is why Tunde, this is why it does not surprise me for two reasons. To John's point, they broke the window with a riot shield. If you saw certain videos, there were certain videos where the police literally just said, "Come on, y'all, come on in." So it's like, I think of it this way. I'm not that old. I'm getting ready to be 40 this year. I know y'all are somewhere around the same age, a little bit older, so forth. But I think about our parents. I think about, we weren't there in the 60s, and so forth. In the 60s, you was being called the N-word to your face.
Yeah.
We're not that far apart from racism is a learned habit. It's a learned trait that's being passed down from generation to generation to generation to generation. We're not born with hate in our hearts to say, I hate that white man, I hate that black man, I hate that Chinese man, I hate whatever. We're not born with that. And so a lot of these people are passing those things down from generation to generation. And unfortunately, I believe in the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s, that passed down ignorance has shown its face here and there. You're right though, because there are people who it's not politically correct to, to approach people in their face blatantly like that anymore, because you might get knocked out in comparison, because back then we were scared, we were timid. But now
wait, did y'all see that video of the dude getting hit with the iced tea?
Yes. No. Yes.
You haven't seen the tea
with the twisted tea.
Yeah,
with the twisted tea.
Yo, you gotta see this video.
Make sure when as this goes on, you actually put a clip of that so people can see.
I'm gonna have to put that Joan in there because that Joan and so this dude, I'll describe it to you really quickly. So white guy, think he's drunk. You know what I'm saying?
I've seen it. Yep.
Yeah, you saw it in a liquor store, in a convenience store.
Yep.
Yeah, yo.
Too. Yeah.
But my point is that to your point, Tunde, over the past 4 years, they have been made to felt more comfortable to become more vocal again. The suppression of ignorance wasn't suppressed for that long. Like John said, whether you were in the South or whether you were in the North, whether you were in the South, people were still telling you to your face. There were still parts of town you could not go to without being feared for being dragged out of your truck or car or whatever and hung and lynched or whatever the case may be, versus in the North in New York. See, I got family from Queens, from where you are, and I also got family from down here in North Carolina, from Greensboro. So I had it on both sides. So that's why I say it really doesn't surprise me, because people are people. I mean, it's people are ignorant. And I just try to keep ignorance and negativity out of my life.
I mean, I also think that Ty, to your point, I think that racism is a mental health issue. You know what I'm saying? Like, you are like, and to that effect, I also believe that it goes both ways. So I personally don't believe that Black people can be racist, but I do believe that Black people can have some
hate in their heart, dog. I know some people that be like, man, that white dude. I mean, I'd be like, dog, you're racist.
And it is perpetuated by the conspiracy theories and the experiences that people have and how they won't let things go. You know what I'm saying? Like, I will just another quick little aside. Like, so T and I went to the same high school. I remember, never forget this moment. Like, it still is ingrained in me. I don't know how I internalized it. I probably need to go seek help for it. Driving down the road the day I was getting dropped off at school, right? So first day, freshman year at school, T. We driving down the road changes color to red. There's red pavement on the road. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what that process is, why the road would be red. My mother says, without hesitation, it's red with the blood of Black people.
Okay.
Yo, here I am on my way to this boarding school in Central Virginia with all these Southerners with their Confederate flags up. You know what I'm saying? And my mother has said, I'm driving down there, heart already beating hard because I'm going to a new school, new place, exciting, and she says, without blinking, it's red with the blood of Black people.
Yo, but how your mom gonna say that and then leave you there?
They didn't leave right. Like, Mom, that could be my blood in a minute.
Yeah, she gonna be like, you're gonna be all right. Good luck.
Yo.
Put a Band-Aid on it.
Look, I ain't saying she had bad parenting.
No, I'm just saying.
But I ain't saying that was good parenting either. You know what I'm saying?
You're gonna suck it up. You're gonna take advantage of education, boy, regardless of what you got to deal with, and come back to us.
So I mean, so that was crazy. But so with all of that said, with the having talked a little bit about the events that happened, and I'm also in education. So being in education, I've had to have conversations with students as well. I have advisory group, and I know my Black advisees wanted to go deep down the rabbit hole of racism in this conversation and talk about, how different the events of Wednesday were from what happened when Black Lives Matters protesters were in DC. and how there were so many more police.
Yep.
The police presence was, amped up. I would say probably 50-fold, right? And what I had to try to keep them from doing was really just focusing on the fact that the white people who were rioting on Wednesday were able to do it so easily, and really get them to understand that there's a bigger component to that that goes beyond just how easy they was able to maneuver around to the system of government that we live in, and how there are people within that system, known and unknown, who allowed that to happen. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't Mayor Bowser who allowed that to happen.
Right.
It was the government, people in the government who didn't call in more police officers, didn't have the National Guard come in the way they did for Black Lives Matters. You know what I'm saying? They just didn't mobilize the people, and they did it on purpose, right? And so understanding that is very hard when kids are in their feelings, when people are in their feelings, right? Because I mean, they should be in their feelings because it's something to feel some kind of way about. But it's far beyond just in that moment. And I'm sitting here, I'm wearing a Black Lives Matter shirt, but the reality of it is that we know that we have not mattered. You know what I'm saying? The way that we should in this country.
I think what in talking to a lot of people and kind of having those conversations, there's this feeling of um of lack of control, right? We feel like this thing is happening to us and there's nothing we can do about it. And I think the eureka moment for me in some of these conversations was we can only control what we can control, right? So this is making sure, like what happened in Georgia was huge. You know how important that is in terms of finally getting control back of our destiny, because voting for me has been something that I've never felt, especially being in New York. We go the same way every time, but not understanding how important it is to do it at the legislative level, how important it is for us to be able to speak, because that's truly your voice. And one thing I heard in terms of the riots was this is a perfect example of when police reform makes sense, right? It's like there needs to be a level of education, and this is a perfect example of why, right? Because the system is not geared towards, if we've been saying that for years, and that's with numbers tied back to it in terms of incarceration. I mean, we can keep going, but just police reform at the local level. I mean, this is crazy. This is the Capitol building. There's absolutely no way that this would have gone any other way if these were Black people. Let's just call it what it is.
Right.
But this is a perfect example of when we really need to be able to come together and then apply some of these new rules to be able to help us, now that we have the right people in place, at least geared towards our interest.
You know what I feel, Tunde, though? And John, you were right, because I had to educate my daughter about the same thing. There's a difference between the District of Columbia Police and actual, federal Capitol Police. And what was held back were the federal Capitol Police before the District Police were there. But anyway, that was aside. The education that you speak of, Tunde, I agree with you wholeheartedly, but I feel that it needs to start way before you get to you're even allowed into the force. Because to John's point, there are inside jobs that's going on that a lot of us are ignorant to. Right. We don't know, like John said earlier, when you in the North, you don't know that your neighbor has this disdain for people of color or people of whatever. But so we really need, and that's why I said earlier, a lot of this racism stuff and this racist stuff is taught when they were younger. So even in schools, we're not taught our own history. So of course, when you're being taught all white stuff or all stuff that pertains to, then of course you think you're the superior race instead of having equality across the board. Or of course you don't see what other people have gone through. So by the time you get older and you've already got that disdain in your heart for this race of people or this group of people or whatever the case may be. So now you are a judge and you racist, but they don't know you racist, you a judge, or now you are a cop and you're racist and nobody knows. How do we break that cycle? How do we break the cycle earlier on before they even get to these levels of positions that, now, we got racist cops and we got racist judges and we got racist this and that and the third. How do we break that cycle?
Well, and I think that's the part that that's the way that when I think about it, that's the way that I feel. Think about if you have a massive task, right? They always say you got to break it up in pieces, and you're right. Like if you want to correct something, you have to correct it at infancy, right? So yeah, you want to be able to go back to the very beginning, education being that point where you can really change the narrative. But the reality is it's hard to do that, right? So like where we can control the narrative is where we need to. So if it's in the education field at the very beginning, then yes, of course we have to capitalize there. But if for some reason, I can't do that because whatever, they didn't go to school or whatever. So if it's for you to get paid, this is what you need to do. For you to put money in your kid's mouth, you have to be able to abide by these rules, then change the narrative. So like, I think that's the daunting task for me, is to say, I can't do this. I can't do this from the very beginning all by myself, but where I can do something, I'm going to do it. And I know that money is a big conversation starter. So if I'm telling you not going to get paid if you don't abide by these rules, then I think the open to listen will be much different. But I hear you got to start early. I just don't know how we can do that in a wide scale.
Right.
I agree. I just think there are crooked people in every industry.
Absolutely. So let's bring it back to you talk about education from an early age. One of the our jobs as fathers is to educate our kids.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? How has that played out for you all at this point in terms of educating your kids? Maybe my kids are young. T, your kids are young. Maybe we haven't talked to them about what happened on Wednesday. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'm not even sure, honestly, how to have that conversation with my sons in a way that makes sense to their eyes, like their minds right now. But there is something that we can talk about, right? And so I asked Ty, Ty, how have you been approaching? Because your kids,
how old are your kids
and stuff,
college, right?
Ty got like 20 years.
It's funny because I do have my oldest son is 20, getting ready to be 21 this year. I do have
y'all gonna go out for a drink.
He's so far in church, the only drink he having is Jesus juice.
Oh, okay.
I got one that's getting ready to be 18 in 2 days. And then I have two. My youngest son is 15. He'll be 16 in a month, and then my daughter will be 16 in June.
T, we did it wrong, man. We did it wrong. T.
Hey, I try to get him out the way so that way when you get older, you can just still walk around the house naked. No, I'm joking.
I did it wrong.
Nah, but to answer your question though, John. And, my kids are at an age, even the 15 and like my daughter, for instance, she's fully into and acknowledges everything that goes on around her, specifically dealing with the climate of the world. My son is getting ready to be 18. He's another one. My 15-year-old, he don't care about what's going on other than himself and football. My oldest son, same. He's in it, but at the same time, God take care of it. That's him. That's him. So I've had, little conversations here and there with my daughter and my other son. And to have the conversations, because again, like I said, this isn't new. We've had conversations where we've had civil rights leaders pass within the generations of my kids being younger, around you all's age. So we've had those conversations about who they were as civil rights leaders and them asking questions. Oh, did they do this? Or did they do that? Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty dope. So on and so forth. But what's going on now, because I have an 18-year-old who's getting ready, or one is getting ready to be 18, it's a completely different conversation than I would have at 2 or 7 or 4 or whatever, because of the fact that he is getting ready to go into adult age, where he will actually see a lot of this more prevalent in his life.
Yeah.
But I had a conversation with a neighbor of mine, because we, to a certain degree, we look at ourselves about what goes on with our kids, and they don't live in the same environment that I grew up in. Like I said, I grew up on the same street as John's mother, one of the blackest, hoodest neighborhoods in PG County, PG County, Maryland. Where I literally had like, little dudes knocking on my door telling me, yo, somebody's stealing your car. Like that's the. But now I live in a neighborhood where it's majority business, I'll just say it, white people. It's majority white people. So the people who they usually hang around are white people. So again, they're still not being taught their history at school. So I have to make sure that not only am I having conversations about, what happened in history, but what's going on now. So that way they know their own history and know that, some of these white people you hanging around with can be cool, because not all white people are bad. But there are some that you need to be aware of. And so that, that's sort of the conversations that I'm having with my kids now, of just be aware of who you think or who you specifically are calling your friend, or who you may work with or hang with. Be aware of these signs, and that, just to make sure your yourself is not in danger, in comparison to having the conversation I would have had, 10, 15 years ago of, we're proud Black people, and, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King, and they fought for our freedom, and this that. It's you can, in my opinion, you can baby it a little bit when they're of that little age, in comparison to now, where it's like, yo, you getting ready to deal with the real world, and the real world isn't all cupcakes and candy that these white people that you are calling your friend in front of your face at school are portraying to you. Some of these people, they say you're your friend in your face, but behind their back, they making a fool of you, or whatever the case may be. So it's a different conversation.
Yo, so I feel the need to say this. It's a little bit late into the podcast, but it should be said. So both Ty and T are my son's godfathers. So each of them is a godfather of one of my sons. And so I say that, I stop and I say that now, because I appreciate both of you all being a part of my son's lives. You know what I'm saying?
Most definitely.
And so the lessons, however little or much they'll be able to gain from you all, in terms of how often they get a chance to see you, it's important to have other Black males that they can look up to and gain knowledge from as well.
I love both of them dudes.
So to go along with that, though, I want to say that one of the things that I have already started to have to tell my son, my oldest, Trey, is that you can't do what the white kids do.
Yeah. Why, Daddy? Why not?
And it's crazy. It's crazy, but it's real. Like, and I felt bad, almost bad, telling him that, like, yo, you can't do what those white, because he should be able to do whatever.
But why? Right? That's what I get. That's what Wally says to me. He's like, but why? Right? He knows why, like, he shouldn't do it because it's not the right thing. But why is there a difference between what I can and what they can?
And when I've had those conversations with my kids when they were younger, because I've had to say that before, you can't do what everybody else can do, is because we are, and sometimes you have to be honest. Yeah. But you can put it in a way in which they understand, because we as in brown or Black people can't get away with some certain things that maybe some of your friends can't get away with. Yeah. And also I will say to that as well, John, you have to also educate your kids even at that young age, of how they're being treated by some of these people. Because as I had a conversation with my son, and this wasn't even too long ago, to be completely honest with you, don't let them sit there and put makeup on you to make you look like a clown, yet they're laughing at you. Yeah. Dude, and you the only Black kid in the bunch?
Right.
Nah, that's another conversation that needs to be had at a younger age, because when they at school, when they're out of our, again, they're being taught this from home, that we can play with these Black kids because they're our property, because that's what they're used to being taught, right? Yeah. So we can make them up and we can laugh at them, we can joke at them, we can do this, that, and the third. And so, like Tunde said, when we're suppressing this, we don't realize what we're being taught, and all of a sudden we get, yo, you tripping on me, and now I'm angry black person, I'm getting ready to fight you because you've been. So we have to teach our kids that too.
Yeah. I mean, what I try to do too is and this is beyond just being black. There's a certain level of expectation that we have to place upon ourselves, right? So it starts with us. The reason why we're not doing this is because that's not the right thing to do, because that's not what we do, right? That's not what we do as black people. That's not what we do as Olabis. That's not what we do, and you have to be able to set the precedent. So that's where, because that's what, you know, Wale will ask you. Wale, my son, he'll ask that question like why, you know, because he actually started a conversation about this with me. He came down, was like, Daddy, did you hear? Because again, I'm down here doing my work, and he's like, you know, he's you know, specifically to Trump was saying that he's being a sore loser again, because I thought like when you lose a contest, you're supposed to show good sportsmanship and acknowledge. This is him telling me like this, you acknowledge the winner. And I'm like, you're right, that's exactly what you're supposed to do. But in this case, this president's not doing that. And he's like, he's being a sore loser again. And he's like, but why are they so mad? You know, and that's where it gets deep, you know, and I'm trying to have them understand that it's deep rooted, and it's not, you know, this is something that we've been dealing with for many years, and you have to make sure that you rise above it, because we have to be better than this, you know. And that's I mean, you got a 7-year-old having this conversation with you about hate and why things are the way they are, and you know, all the things that we teach him is contradictory to what he's seeing on a daily basis. Like that's the part that's like crazy as a parent, you know.
Yeah, man, that's real. That's real.
You're right. I mean, it's everything that we teach our kids. It's crazy because, and I can't say we, because like to John's point earlier, you may not be able to say black people are racist, but some black people are hateful. So there are some black people teaching their kids, all white people are bad. And that's not the case. That's not the truth. You know, so for those of us who are doing the right thing and teaching our kids to love everybody, whether they're brown, yellow, purple, black, blue, in between, you know, there are people who are still teaching their kids, you know, black people are bad, white people are bad, Chinese people are bad. And it's like, no, they're not. However, we can't do everything that they do, because, you know, we don't have those same liberties or those same, you know, everything's just not equal. Everything's not equal. You know, everything should be equal, but everything's not equal. And it's hard to break that down, like you said, to a 7-year-old. But there are some 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and below, even, you know, that get it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad that they have to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's because, you know, I oftentimes revert back to the whole idea of like, you know, black boy joy. You know what I'm saying? I want my sons to be able to hold on to being happy kids as long as they possibly can. You know, because eventually the world is going to slap them in the face, right? Like there's going to be, whether it has to do with race or not, you know what I'm saying? We know, you know what I'm saying? You go high school, you go to college, you go get a job, like it starts to weigh on you. There'll be a long time that they have in their lives for things to start weighing on them. And so,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, and I was just saying, you know, and when, like, how long can we hold on to keeping them in a place where they can be joyous, they can have joy and happiness, and not have to fully worry about all of those, the weight of the world. You know what I'm saying?
So so the Bible says, train up your child in the way you should go, so that they may not depart from it, right? I believe you should train up your child from start. Train up your child to the ways of the world. Maybe not so harshly, because what we don't realize as we get older, because things change from generation to generation, a lot of this stuff that we may or may not see, they're dealing with in elementary school. They're dealing with in middle school. They're dealing with, it's not just starting in, you know, college, real life, you know, work. They're dealing with, you know, people, little kids coming in and saying, I don't like you because of the color of your skin. Or my mommy said, I can't play with you. And it, you know, and she won't say why. She just said, I can't play with you. But he or she knows why, because you're a black kid. I can't play with you. So they're dealing with those things. And so your child's coming home going, oh, well, Sally won't play with me, and my feelings are hurt. Well, why won't Sally play with you? She just said her mommy said she can't play with me. so we have to say, okay, well, unfortunately, I get that you can't play with Sally, because her mom won't allow you to or whatever, but maybe there's somebody else, that's like Sally you can play with, or whatever the case may be, but that's what I said. We can't wait. We can't hold off on these conversations because our kids are what we believe to be too young, because they are experiencing these things in some form or fashion. Maybe not the way that we may experience them in the work world, or what we may see on TV, but they are experiencing it at a younger age.
And that's a good point, Ty. I'm thinking about that's where like building self-confidence and self-worth really plays a big part, right? Because, we're used to being in this jungle and trying to find pride within ourselves. And that's what we're trying to build with our kids, is that, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot of turbulence. There's going to be a lot of things where you question yourself, and you question others, but you got to be confident in yourself to be able to move past that. So yeah, you're seeing all this madness going on. And yeah, you've noticed that if it was the person that has done it, the same thing that's Black is getting either shot or arrested or killed. But yet I just saw this a couple of days ago, and these people are white and they're getting away with it. Why is that? And that could build anger and resentment, even as adults, you can imagine. But as a kid starts to think about it, it's like, you want to go play in the playground, and like all of a sudden you feeling segregation, like, no, these white kids are going to go and you're not. Like that feeling is going to start to resonate, and they have to be able to say, they got to be able to endure that and move forward, right? Endure that and not be like, I need to speak to it and say that it's wrong, but also acknowledge that the most you might be able to do at that moment is speak to it and move away, right? Versus react and be angry, and all of a sudden, like, you've built this like persona, and it's a hard kind of cloud to walk away from. So I think for me, it's just having my son and my daughter understand that this is the way it is, or this the way it currently is, and you have to try to be above it. Right? Because you're going to get challenged. You got to be above it, because if not, once you get caught up in it, you're a completely different person.
So I'm going to make a big leap here and say that you all are saying that my mother's tough love approach to my childhood was right.
Was the right way. Yes.
So now my therapist would say
was the right way.
my therapist would say that you are not correct in this.
I would
but the reality of it is that what you're saying makes sense in a way, because you learn early on, and I don't, maybe hardened is not the right word, but you do become hardened to some things in a way where it does not, it's like water off a duck's back, right? It rolls off, you move on, you have a trajectory that is for you, right? Based on your foundation, and your family in your house, and the way you've been raised, and that is what propels you. And again, making another leap, I feel like it made me flash back to the moment when Trump won the election, and all the white people around me was crying, and I'm like, but
fine, what tears was it? Tears of happiness, or
no? They was crying because they was like, "How did this happen?" I voted for Hillary, and I'm like, but not enough of you voted for Hillary. Like
there was a skit. So I don't know if you saw the Saturday Night Live skit.
It was Chris Rock,
and Dave Chappelle.
They in there with their white friends. You know what I'm saying? And they like, but we knew that she wasn't going to win. You know what I'm saying? Because they understand the world that we live in a way that the kids who grew up where everybody got a trophy. Yep. You know what I'm saying? The way that the kids who grew up where they never were told no. Yeah. Didn't understand, right? Like, so their world was crushed in that moment. and I had my Kleenex ready for them to be crushed. I was like, let me get the Kleenex out because they're about to be crushed again. Like Donald, but so I'm pleasantly surprised that he didn't win. So I get to be on the happy side of it now. But I was gonna be fine either way, because I was gonna be like, I told you so.
Pretty much. Like,
but in any case, the long and short of that is here. What I'm hearing you say is that we do need to prepare our kids, even at a young age.
Yeah, because they're gonna deal with it some form, fashion, or another. Let's say for instance, because my kids used to make fun of me with this, and then my kids are actually scared. So let's say you're. I mean, I know everybody's kind of home now, this quarantine thing, but you used to, John, travel a good distance to your work, and from my understanding, your son Trey would travel to you because he was going to school at the same school you work at, right?
Right.
So let's say, for instance, though, you traveling to school, at your old job. I don't know how far your new one is or not, but let's say you traveling to your old one and you get pulled over. And you get pulled over by some racist, bigoted, idiot cop. Your son has always been taught cops are your friends. Yeah. Now this cop is bad mouthing you. All you did was you was going 5 miles over the speed limit. And you like, sir, I apologize. I'll slow it down. Just give me the ticket, go about my business. And meanwhile, he's like, no, you get out the car because you this, that, and the third. And meanwhile, your son is like, but I thought this, why is he being mean to my daddy? So that's why I said you have to kind of start to have those conversations even at an earlier age, because they may not, and it doesn't have to be such harsh. It doesn't have to be such straightforward in your face. But it can say, you know what, son, not everybody is as nice as you are. Not everybody is as nice as your teacher. And we have to let people know that, let our kids know that, everybody's not bad though. Every white person is not bad. Every Asian person is not bad. I have a cousin that lives in Milwaukee who went to go get her nails done. And the person who did her nails was, it was an Asian dude, called her the B word, told her to get the F out of his shop. So on and so forth, and she went live on Facebook, and literally the very next day, the Black Panthers was sitting in that nail shop having her back, talking about, yo, I heard you done call one of our sisters X, Y, and Z. What you're not about to do is, and I don't know why your other Black people in here supporting that. It was really cool. She was on Facebook, right? Wow. But anyway, but the point is, there are people. It's not just white people. It's white. It's Black people. It's Asian people. It's we have to tell our kids, yo, not everybody is nice. So you need to be prepared to deal with people who are not as nice as you are.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting though, because I don't know what happened when you was growing up in New York, T, but I can say when we was growing up in the DC area, you know what I'm saying, we knew it was this very interesting, like specifically with the police, this very interesting juxtaposition that we had with the police. Like in the street, you knew you didn't mess with the police. I wasn't out running the streets like that, but I knew enough to know, like, police, we had this thing called a jump out that would like literally jump out of the cars and pick up young men on the corner, you know what I'm saying, pat them down. Um uh uh but we also had police officers who would come to the schools, had officer
friendly.
You know what I'm saying? And there was a local police officer go-go band. For those of you who don't know, go-go music is music specific to the DC area. You can find it in some of your better music. But right, but it is. But there was a go-go, a police officer go-go music band, a go-go band that came and played at the schools. Mm-hmm. So you had this group of police officers who they was trying to like, make them seem as though officers were friendly, somebody you should be, but you knew better. You know what I'm saying? Because I grew up in the 80s in DC, 80s and the 90s. Like, you ain't mess with the police. Mm-hmm. So interesting kind of, you on one hand, you want to be around the police because they're nice. And on the other hand, it's like, nah, you don't mess with the police. So that was something that I grew up with. And so we were always kind of torn in both directions in that way.
I mean, for me, it was interesting because, I was born in Nigeria. I came here when I was going into high school. So, thinking about corruption and corrupted governments. And I mean, coming from Nigeria, come to America. So anybody that had that type of power was bound to be bad. So cops, presidents, teachers, it didn't matter. Like I came in with the idea that, I had to keep my head down to be able to stay out of trouble. So, the police were always, people that I always try to stay away from, especially because again, I was an immigrant and, I had this like sense of insecurity, especially being around them, because it was always that fear that, I was, some reason somebody was going to do something to me. And, back home in Nigeria, it's always justified. So, ain't nobody, you can't, a cop can beat you up and you looking around for help and they're going to be like, I don't know why you talk back to him. Like that's the type of attitude that I had to deal with. So I don't know. It was weird. I mean, I think for me growing up, there was still a sense of respect for officers and the system itself. But I think as I grew older, it's more of disappointment because, even through the 80s and 90s in New York, I mean, a lot of my reality, being trying to blend into this culture was what I saw on TV, right? So I'm thinking about like cops on TV and how like they're revered and like, there's like all these shows and cops are good and they're funny and, like there was this sense of pride and like, Americans love their cops and the military, like there was this other sense of pride. So you kind of like keep them up here, and then all of a sudden you're seeing like they're corrupt cops and they're dirty cops and they're obviously good cops, but it's like that's not really what's getting pushed, right? So you got all these great cops and people that are really trying to serve their community, and then you get this dark cloud of just like ridiculous, racist, like corrupt cops that aren't doing what they're supposed to do. So it's just, I feel bad for those people that I know that got into the service to be able to do good for the community and now have to be like, shadowed by this craziness that we're experiencing right now.
So here we are. No, go ahead, Ty. You have something to say?
No, I was just gonna say and which is the reason why we can't shy away from, like John said, we were in the area in which we grew up. You were not necessarily fearful, but you just didn't fool with the police. And like you said, Tunde, having this specific respect for police coming over here and then realizing things were completely different. A lot of us are taught we don't go into those professions because you'll be called a traitor, you'll be called this, that, and the third. However, we do need us to go in that profession because it won't change otherwise. It won't change otherwise. And if we don't get in there and make changes, then it won't change.
I'm glad you said that. It's called Daddy Confessions for a reason. I'm about to make a confession.
These are my confessions.
I have absolutely no want for my kids to go into police or the military.
You say you do not want?
I do not want them to go anywhere near those professions.
No, sir.
Why not?
And
safety aside, or
what'd you say?
Said why not, safety aside? Or
I mean, obviously, I don't want them to necessarily put their lives on the line for a country that I don't feel truly cares for them.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's the biggest.
That's answer number one on the board.
Right. That's the biggest piece. But I also feel like I know my sons. I look at my sons every day. They just don't have it. You know what I'm saying?
They change, John. They change.
They ain't made for that. You know what I'm saying? They my sons. They not made for that. Okay.
They change as they grow up, John.
We lovers, not fighters. You know what I'm saying? Like I had some fights growing up, but that ain't us.
But Ty, you were saying that like we gotta go into these professions if we're gonna try to change. I mean, if we have our sons that want to do something like this, at least at the local level, they try to protect the community. Shouldn't we encourage them to I mean, if we're gonna do change, you gotta do it from the core. So why wouldn't we want
right?
You're right. But why would you want to go into a system that is broken already? You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, you hear Blue Lives Matter, right? We know that is a dog whistle for racism, right? We know that is what that is, right? But what we also know is that there are Black police officers who have been put into a position where they either can be Black or they can be a police officer, to the point where the white people will allow them to believe that but they don't see their race, right? Like, we don't see your race. You're one of us. You know what I'm saying? And so they have to put that first. And I'm not just saying that because of the movies, which I watch a lot of, but but that's not just because of the movies. That's the reality of the what now. This is out here in the world. You know what I'm saying? If I get pulled over by a police officer, you know why. The whole idea of the fraternal order of police,
right,
is because you in a fraternity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There are certain things that happen within that fraternity that are for members of that fraternity.
Yeah.
Right. And it is fraternity above all else, right? Or most else, depending on who you are. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let's be real about it, right? Yeah. So it's the same way with police.
Yeah. But
now I'm not comparing your fraternity.
No, I know, but what's interesting about that is that there's also even in the strong bond is created, comparing fraternities, sororities, any type of team or it's that there's also a level of order. There has to be an expectation that yes, if we're in this team, then our job is to be able to protect it. But if there's a sense of if something's not right, you also have the courage. You also need to have the courage to speak up, right? So, and I think that's where it is that I think there's something strong about a bond, and it could go multiple ways, right? So, but there needs to be somebody within that is always there to be able to make sure that the order is kept in the right path. And I think that's the part that we're missing. Like, I get it, right? Like if I'm part of a community like the police force and something is going wrong, or if I'm not doing the right thing and they're there to protect me, they're protect me to make sure that I do the right thing the next time, versus just keeping it going and then try to sweep it under the rug. I'm trying to give you an opportunity to make it right. Is the reason why I might be protecting you. I might be withholding information, right or wrong. But that is my intent, is to be able to correct it versus, continue it, and I think that's where things kind of get lost is, where are the people saying like, hey, what's going on is wrong. And we as our own people need to be able to get rid of of this feeling, because I know that like, hey, as a police officer, our name is out there. I want to make sure everybody admires it as much as we do.
And that's where you got people who are, like John said, are made to be the face or front, because that's actually where I got that from, Tunde. When I was in college, I pledged a fraternity. I didn't finish for a completely different reason, but the reason I did, the reason I was hesitant to even join a fraternity, and it's a fraternity that I know that you're a part of. Yeah. I regret not finishing, but it's the fraternity that you're a part of. I hesitated to go to the interest meeting because I was like, yo, I heard that this is what they're like, and they do this, and they haze, and da-da-da-da-da. And somebody said to me, yo, but if you don't join the fraternity and actually get an opportunity to chance to, one, learn about it, two, change what you feel it may be the issue, then it's always going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So it was like, I put myself through, a couple weeks of hell, and it was, I did get, what I said that I didn't want to get, but one of the reasons of me going through with it was to potentially change that for that chapter. Like I said, I didn't finish for a completely separate reason, but like I said, you have to be in it in order to be that change and make that change. But when it comes to the military, which was his original question, it's like, yeah. I mean, like I said, the number one answer is why go fight for something or someone who doesn't give a rat's tail about you.
Right. You're right.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of it is that I don't think I know, again, not popular opinion, right? Like, we need to have a military, but the reason why we need to have a military is because we got people who fight in wars for their own interests, right?
And to I'll say this, it's not that I just don't want my kids to be used in that way.
Right.
We were used, back then as front line in the military because of our color.
Right.
Yeah. I need you to protect.
Now, let's be honest though, it worked out for some people, right?
Oh, it did.
You know what I'm saying? And it was hard, but it also was a way, and there's still a way for many Black many people of color to move up
In ranks, yeah.
and well, let's ranks specifically within the military, but in terms of social, their social status, right? So
Yeah.
like their financial status, you know what I'm saying? There's lots of black families that, even though it was not easy, went from being lower class to middle class families because of being in the military. Now, my hope is that for my sons, that they understand that we don't have to take that kind of measure in hopes of coming back with all of our limbs and coming back, with our psyche not broken, not PTSD or whatever, so that we can have a better life. Like there's other ways for us to do that, right? And that's what my hope is for my sons, is that they understand that does not have to be the only way for them to be able to have a good life.
I agree.
So, so I mean, we've been talking for a little while now. It's a great conversation. I mean, I could probably go on like this for another, like, you know what I'm saying, couple hours, and I do want to get to a couple of other things as it relates to raising kids, right? So raising boys in general, or raising boys specifically, I should say. What are some lessons that you either learned when you became a father, especially to your son, or things you wish you would have learned early on when you became a father? And it could be to your son or to your daughter, you know what I'm saying? Like just things that you wish you would have known early on, or things that you have learned in the time you've been a parent.
I don't know if you want to go first or not, Tunde, but I'll say, the biggest lesson, I had a joke, but I'll keep it. The biggest lesson I learned was that it's no longer about me. That was the biggest. I'm ain't gonna lie, I was a selfish dude. Growing up, when it came to relationships and so forth, I wanted it to be about me and my lady. But once you got a kid, everything else stopped. The presents from Christmas time, you don't get no more presents. Your parents, when people call, they call and ask about the kids. They don't care about what you're doing. You could be laid over, throwing up, say the load on the side of the road. All they want to know is how's the kids.
Are the kids okay?
Exactly, are the kids okay? It's like, but what about me? So that was one of the biggest things, that it's no longer about you. It is about them kids. Is one of the biggest things I've learned. And that so there's another one, but I'll say this one first. And that I have a level of responsibility now as a father, whether it's to a daughter or a son. And mind you, I had my sons first. But I have a level of responsibility that now I have to take upon my shoulders that I did not have before. That's crazy. And my last one I'll say is one that I did not actually learn until well after being a father, after being married the second time. I did not know the order of operations or order of structure of the household as a father, or as a husband, or as a man that I know that I had to teach my kids. I did not know that, and I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know it until my second marriage. Those are the three things that I had to learn going into fatherhood for the first time.
I might need you to elaborate more on that order of, because I think I'm like, I mean, I don't plan on doing this again. So marriage is one and done.
It took me twice. Now I want to figure out this first time.
It took me twice. I ain't gonna lie. It took me. That's why I said. That's why I said. When the reason I say that is because one of the things that I wasn't selfish about, like, oh, it's all about me. But when it came to certain stuff, I was a big tech dude. I was, I wanted the latest and the greatest of all things. So I was Best Buy's favorite customer, because I was, but I could no longer do those things because now I had to think about other people other than myself, or other than my wife. But when it comes to the order of operations, that wasn't your initial question, but I had to learn that it's God first, you as the husband, as the man, your wife, then the kids. Gonna lie, had I known that probably in my first marriage, I probably would have still been in my first marriage.
So what was your order in your first marriage?
God, me.
It was
No, no, I'm joking.
But I hear you.
No, I'm
else.
joking. No, honestly, it was God, me, and then like everybody else was pretty much on the same level. Like I was taking, my kids were the same as my wife, and my wife were, and it really shouldn't have been that way. It should have been my wife first, then my kids. But
I mean, for me, honestly, I'm still learning, like, my kids, are young, my daughter is 9, my son is 7. They're young, and I'm the oldest of 3, but I'm the oldest of a lot, meaning that like I've had that responsibility placed upon me for a very, very long time. So, like having kids to me was just almost like having another brother. Like, I have, like, I'm the oldest of 3, but I actually have step brothers and sisters, and that's another conversation we need to have. But like, all that was really introduced to me both early and late in my life. So it was like these responsibilities always been given to me, and it's like, okay, now you gotta, this and something else you have to deal with, for lack of a better word. But like, so like I'm still learning. I think the biggest thing for me is really trying to make sure that what I grew up with, I wanted to make sure that I did the best that I could, right? So, I came from a household that we didn't really have a lot of dialogue, and I'm learning that within the, like, just in American culture, like we don't talk to our kids enough. And so for me, it was like trying to make sure that I spoke to them. So that's what I'm learning, is that like sometimes you just got to stop and talk to the kids and make sure that they understand you're on the same wavelength, and whatever they're going through, as frivolous as it might be to us as adults, is the biggest thing in the world, and really trying to like encourage them and take that time, because as we get into our work every day, sometimes you kind of miss those moments. And I think what I'm learning is to make sure that no matter how crazy I am, I take the time to be able to listen to him and talk to him and try to vibe with him, so he feels like he's always supported no matter how crazy things are.
Wow. You know what? So this is it's beautiful, because so I had, again, like I had one of these conversations the other day, and the same thing came out of it, right? Like, still learning, you know what I'm saying? Never stop that learning process. The kids teach us a lot, right?
Yeah.
And one thing that I have learned in that conversation that I had with Mike was actually around growing up without our fathers, right? And so part of that was understanding how important it is for us to be able to say to our kids, you know what, I'm still learning, or let's learn that together. Let's, I want my son to know, I want my sons, both of them, Wyatt and Trey, to know that they can come to me, and that I am a resource for them. But I want them also to understand that daddy doesn't always have all the answers, and it's okay for me not to have all the answers. So I'm learning that, it's okay for me to show my vulnerability to my sons. They need to know and understand that, you know what I'm saying? So that they don't have to, because I when I got married, I had this mindset of, I need to fix everything. Like, I have to know the answers. I have to, be able to navigate everything for my family. Originally just for my wife and I, but for my family. And it's been something that I've learned in recent years, that it's okay for me not to be able to fix everything. And that we're in it together. And that goes for even with my sons. The boys they get something out of this as well. It's a learning experience for them, and um and that's a process that it is hard for me to, I think, take time to actually do with them, because I know that, we're constantly in this go kind of situation. But it's important for me to stop and say, you know what, I have to take time to learn that, just like you need to take time to learn things for
Right.
you in school. You know what I'm saying? So daddy's still learning, just like you're still learning.
And you know what's crazy to me? That I think what ends up happening is that, like most things, right, you end up setting a level of expectation, right? Because that's where disappointment starts. Is, you have, as dads or dads that we want to be, like, my dad was very strict, like a military dad. Like, it was, it's the way it was. And then the moment that you see that he's not perfect, there's this sense of disappointment, and depending on what level of life that happens is how deep it can run. So for me, it's I wanted to establish that imperfection early. You know what I'm saying? I don't want you to be surprised when daddy messes up, or I want you to understand that I'm human and it happens, and I'm learning and I'm trying to figure it out. But I want you to always know that I'm trying to do my best. Like, so, like, that's a constant thing. And I think trying to set that expectation was something that I wanted to do very early, because again, disappointments will happen throughout your life. And I think once they know what to expect in terms of just, the imperfection, it just makes, I think, that growing process that much easier.
That's real. That's real.
I feel like the reason you feel the way you feel, John, and I could be 110% wrong, is that it's what we've learned. It's what we've learned on, whether it's been through TV, through movies, through whatever the case is. That's pretty much, we've learned that we've had to be the fixer. We had to be the know-it-all. We had to be the whatever it is, even if your dad was not around. I'll tell you this now, if you want to say this is daddy confessions, the reason why my father and I are not close right now, and I grew up with the father, but the reason my father and I are not close right now is because of the fact that he feels like he knows every daggone thing. Yeah. But one of the biggest lessons he's ever taught me was, I take the positive and leave the negative. Yeah. From my parents. He said, I want you to take the positive from me and leave the negative behind. Well, unfortunately, it got to a point where I got an adult and I had to leave the negative behind. Sometimes you got to be like that as a parent. But that's the biggest lesson that you can teach your kids, in my opinion, is that we as adults, John, you said it, will never stop learning. We do not know it all. At some point in time, I have to go look up the answers. I have to go figure this out, because I don't know it. You may come to me and I may be able to spit it to you just like that, because it's a lesson that I've learned or something I've been through. But there may be a time you may come to me and ask me a question or do something. I go, you know what? Got to get back to you, because not sure exactly how to do that.
Right.
So I think, like you said, John, I mean, we have to let our kids know, by no stretch of the imagination are we perfect, because we're not. Also, that we just don't know it all, that we are always learning. And this may be a learning situation that you have to learn with me, like you said, John.
So I know, again, I know we've been going on for a little while. I got a couple more questions, and then I'll let you guys go. Unless you want to stick around, we can talk. You know what I'm saying? These questions are near and dear to me. You know what I'm saying? One, how do you guys feel about, and this specifically for your sons, and may also spill over to your daughters, but crying? Like, you know what I'm saying? So the other day, I was over my mother's house with my boys, and my mother said something to my son that I had been trying to avoid saying for a long time, which is, little boys don't cry like that. And because, I don't like the phrase toxic masculinity. Yeah. I don't like it, because I think, anyway, it's a whole thing. But I also don't want my son, and a whole nother topic. I go to counseling. So I see a counselor. I talk with, like, I need to talk with him more often. But it is something that for me has been very important in dealing with some of the things that I grew up with, right? Which is the way my mother now talks to my kids, which is like, boys don't cry like that. You know what I'm saying? So how do you all feel about your sons? an old and young crying, and how have you dealt with that?
If I answer first, I'll say that was another learning situation for me because again, I feel like we're all taught certain things, whether it be from our parents or whether it be from our environments, including television. We're taught boys don't cry. Boys, you suck it up and this, that, and the third. However, as we've gotten older, we've realized that, there is such thing as, well, not we realize, but the more it's come to light now that there's, such thing as mental health issues. And you wind up in suppressing certain feelings, wind up having you to cause mental health issues further down your life. And so now we have this thing where you go to a therapist and you get help for your situations, this, that, and the third. Because that was another thing that was a a no-do back in the day. Oh, we don't go to therapy because that therapist is for this, that, and the third. So I never have told my sons you don't cry. I may have said tough it up because of a situation they've been in. So I'm on the fence about it, dagnabbit. Because as I've gotten older, so earlier as being a father, I would have said, yeah, tough it up, da-da-da. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, it's okay to cry. I cry as a grown man. I cry, and it is what it is. So I can't tell my 16, my 15, my 18 or whatever that you should not cry. Now there are certain situations that may cause you to tough it up a little bit. And that's more of my speech to them now, but it's never you shouldn't cry.
Yeah.
You got feelings.
Yeah, so I take that I'm right in the middle in terms of that approach. So for me, it's, I try to acknowledge the pain that they're going through. So if you need to express yourself by crying, you could do that, but you got to get over it, right? So it's like, so my thing is like, because I think that's the part that was missing. Is like, I felt like I never had the opportunity to really just express the pain, but I understand that I got to suck it up and get over it, right? So it's like, like when Wale comes and he's like really mad at his sister and he's frustrated, I can't punch girls, and he starts stumping, you get the air, he's like, crying, like, and I'm looking at him like, okay, get it out, but you got to get over it, right? So, and I think that's the way I've tried to like bring it together, because again, you don't want to have to push that, because I don't want him to again keep all that energy in and then end up blowing up and beating up his sister. I just need him to be able to acknowledge the fact that he's in pain, and then you got to be able to move forward, because that's what we got to do in this world.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I agree with both of you, and I think that's been something that I have been, because at first I like literally it was like, no, I don't want to hear it, like no.
Mm-hmm.
No, like I don't got time for that. What are you crying about? Like, but then, but then they got to a point where I was like, you know what? I understand, but if you're not hurt, or if no one hurt you, or no one hurt your feelings, we're done.
My favorite phrase, John. But did you die though?
Did you die?
Did you die?
Well, I gotta die.
I'm like,
why? I'm just hurt.
You had, I was like, you had your moment. You cried, right? And now, so I'm with you. I feel you on that one too. And it's like, it's funny. It's like, at first it was like, yo, I can't do this. Like, because kids at that age, at 1, 2, and 7, and whatever, they're crying over frivolous stuff, and we're like, "Yo, shut up!" Like you crying because you got to go to the bathroom. Then, dude, take yourself to the bathroom and stop crying. Right.
Like, I'm telling you. So we went. So I as I mentioned earlier, like my son, my brother just had his baby. So we're in DC a couple weeks, and when I say I was sleeping and my son was crying hysterically because of the type of toothpaste his mom was brushing his teeth with. Yeah. Like he didn't like the fluoride that was in the toothpaste, the spearmint. He when I said he came out crying, and at that moment I wanted to be like, really? Right? But again, I'm acknowledging the fact you're crying, get it out. But you got to go back and brush your teeth, it's I think that's where the issue is with me, is that like I try to make sure that like it's frivolous. Like we talk about toothpaste or whatever he's coming up with, but it's taking that moment to acknowledge that he's in pain, stupid as it might seem, but then like trying to make sure that we move past it because you're gonna go through a lot of that.
No, I'm not gonna lie. I have definitely laughed at my son before.
Oh yeah.
Like I tried to do it in his face.
Oh yeah.
Y'all know my wife. Y'all know my wife, and she laughs at a lot of stuff. And so sometimes if we look at each other, so last night, prime example. Now they wasn't in the room with me. They were upstairs. So my son said his lip was hurting, so she put something on his lip and it made it hurt worse. And I could hear him running down the hallway crying. I was like, what is going on? Like, for real, like I'm just downstairs chuckling. I'm like, yo, why is this kid running up and down the hallway like he crazy? Because she put something on his lip. Like I just couldn't stop laughing about it. And then my wife came downstairs. I was like, yo, did you bust him in his lip? And, and and it's those moments that we take. Not, I'm not taking anything away from him being in pain and how he has to express himself. I wish he would do it in a little less, entertaining fashion sometimes. You know what I'm saying? But that's it. He has his rights to his feelings, and I'm not trying to take those from him.
And I realize I'm more that way with my nieces and my nephews than I was with my kids. Now, if my kids cry, I'm like, all right, you probably got a valid reason, so on and so forth.
They're older now.
But my nieces and my nephews, my nieces and my nephews, they come, they cry. I see them crying, or my god kids, and I see them crying, and I'll pull them aside and I'll put them on my lap, and I'm like, yo, what's wrong? Da 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 da. And then, like you said, Tunde, and then I'm talking them through it. Okay, you didn't want to brush your, I'm crying because they didn't brush my teeth, and I'm like, all right. Why didn't you want your teeth brushed? Let's calm down. Yeah. Why didn't you want your teeth brushed? Because that's not the type of toothpaste I like. But did you die though? No? Okay, well, let's suck it up and let's do what your mother asked you to do and brush your teeth because once you get out the bathroom, you'll be all right. You okay now? Yeah. All right. Bye.
Because I promise you, it's a whole lot worse when you ain't got no teeth in your mouth.
Right.
Exactly. And then when they run away, then you start laughing, like John said. You like, you know what? That little dude's stupid.
Yeah, no. I try not to laugh. It's hard because, he cries ugly. Like he cries ugly. So it's like I look at him, I'm like, man. So I don't even know what's going on. I'm trying to hold it in because he cries ugly. His whole face be looking funny. Like, oh man, he turned purple.
Like you want girls to see you like that? You may not want to cry.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah. So I got like the questions keep coming, but so another question. So we're talking about raising sons, our boys. How are your sons with your wives or with their mothers? You know what I'm saying? Like mama's boys.
Okay.
Like, is that a thing? Like, how you feel about that?
I have a whole completely different angle from that. So Tunde, I'll let you go first.
So Wale is he's very affectionate, which plays right into my wife's arm. So he is 100% a mama's boy. I mean, just to kind of give you an example of what we're talking about. So again, like, I just got, a nephew, right, for the first time a couple weeks ago. My son's only request to my wife was, please make sure you don't give away my hugs and kisses. That's all he asked for. Wow. So to give you an example, it's like he's like, I know that the attention ain't gonna be the same, but just make sure you hold my. If he's messing up, you don't threaten with taking away his switch. No, you threaten him by taking away his mama's hugs.
Oh wow,
that's that kid he is. Wow. So yeah, it's real, and I got one.
Wow.
Yeah, that's wow. So you got a mama's boy for real, for real.
I got a mama's boy, man.
But I heard they change as they get old, and I've seen that in Yes or No. So he may swing back around the other side as he gets a little bit older.
I ain't worried. I ain't worried about it. Hey, it worked. Again, I don't have to threaten him too much. I just tell his mama stop giving hugs. I mean,
eventually he gonna be like, I don't even want those.
I don't even want. I know.
That's what I said. I heard they changed.
I got to use what I got. So it's hugs. If it's that easy, I'm good.
Gotcha. So okay, so mine is a little bit different because I'm in a blended situation.
Right.
So I will say this though. I wanted girls. I ended up with boys biologically. That's why I married my wife, because she had a girl. So, but nah, because I wanted a daddy's girl. I wanted a daddy's girl. So that was one of the, so, but I didn't get it. So it was what it was.
We'll talk about that. I got something for that one. Go ahead.
So I have two biological sons. I'll speak on them, and they're completely opposite. One, from birth, I don't want to say he's a daddy's.
Which one?
So the two biological ones. So I got the biological ones. I have one is 18. Well, he's getting ready to be 18 in 2 days, and another one is 15.
Okay.
Yeah. So the 20-year-old is from my first wife, and the second, the other 15-year-old, they brought them in on bookends.
Yeah.
So my oldest from birth has always been a daddy's boy. He so much so that he has my first and middle name as his middle name, right? So his whole name is Akil Tyron Dior, and then my last name, right? That's his whole name. When he got to middle school, he said, I don't want to go by Akil no more. I want to be called Tyron, or I want to be called Ty. That's how much of a daddy's boy he is. So that was another thing that I learned, John, from when he, I got to get my stuff together because I realized somebody's watching me. That was one of the things I learned. The other one, on the other hand, is a mama's boy all day long until she say something he don't like. And then he's a daddy's boy. So, I mean, and that was one of the things that I had to learn as well, that kids will play mama versus daddy or daddy versus mama. I like mama this day and I like daddy this day. And so, yeah, but I have them on both sides. I got a mama's boy and I got a daddy's boy. And, like I said, the youngest, he's starting to talk to me more and more now, but he's usually, even his mother will call and be like, you better come get your son. I'm like, but he loves you more.
Yeah, he loves you more.
Yo, yeah. I can't really 100% call it because I got a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, but I think that they will probably throw me under the bus and walk away if they could, you know what I'm saying? I really feel like I'm the outsider around here. Like, you should hear when my wife come in the door, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like everybody run to the door. I'm like, yo, what? I'm like chopped liver over here, you know what I'm saying? But they don't even move when I walk. If I walk in the door,
they be like,
hey daddy.
Oh, hey dad.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yo, I'm like, yo, okay.
They doing that. I like
chopped liver, you know what I'm saying? I'm chopped liver, and but it is so. But I think I have a very interesting situation because I see it more with Trey. So Trey is really he's my oldest. He's a mama's boy. I think, you know what I'm saying? I look at him every day, and sometimes I'm like, I wish I didn't even give you my name. You clearly want to be with your mother more. You know what I'm saying? Like you should, we should switch names or something like that. But
this is why John goes to therapy.
That's why I go. Yo, seriously, no. But it's and just last night he comes downstairs after the whole running down the hall incident when he crying.
Oh, that was Trey? That was Wyatt.
That was Trey. Oh, that was Trey. Oh man, I wish I could have said. I wish I had a camera on him for what that must have looked like, because he ain't no small kid running down the hall.
I had a feeling it was Trey.
So,
I had a feeling it was Trey.
So, because Wyatt, I'll talk about Wyatt. That's a whole nother conversation. That kid.
I don't think Wyatt is even related to them.
Nah, yo, he on a whole different level. That kid on a different level. And that's a whole nother topic. Oh, I ain't going. Yeah, so that's a whole nother topic that I'm hoping to do one day about favorite kids. Okay, favorite kids. Okay, so I know you're not supposed to have them, but anyway, So Trey is a mama's boy, you know what I'm saying? He went running down the hallway crying. My wife was upset at him for like acting, like going, like you know, she kind of maybe overreacted a little bit, maybe not. Like I can't call it because I wasn't there. I kind of heard it from a distance. But he comes downstairs, and this is what he says: "Daddy, I like you more because when you yell at me, it's for a reason." And I was like, "Yo, I thank you."
Thank you. Finally.
I was like, okay, thank you.
Probably because every time you yell at him, he's like, "Do you know why I'm yelling at you?" You probably give him a reason every time you do.
I have. And it didn't start off that way, but now I'm like, yo, I gotta explain to him like why I'm upset. Otherwise, he just gonna look at me and be like, he look at me like he a runaway slave, like, you know, like that's how. Like, no, this is why I'm upset. You know what I'm saying? Like, just so you understand, like, you got water everywhere. Like, it's water all over the floor. Like, it's water. Why? Like, how come you can't brush your teeth like a normal person? Like, why you gotta? Like, why am I walking into puddles on the floor in the bathroom? Like, you was supposed to be brushing your teeth, son. Like, what was you brushing? Like, I don't even understand that. You know, so when I yell at him, that's usually the end of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, giving him a little explanation. But with Wyatt, and the Wyatt situation is a little bit different because unlike most, I think, normal you know, family situations, when a child is born, they are immediately like they become attached to the mother, right? Because of the amount of time that they have to spend with the mother and everything. But when Wyatt was born, two things happened. One, he ended up back in the hospital with jaundice. And two, my wife's mother had just died. So it was a very interesting situation where, you know, I think that she was having a hard time with what was happening. I know she was. And so I think that meant that I had to take on a lot more responsibility of him early on. And that was very difficult for everybody. But I think that also meant that he formed a bond with me that is, you know, really strong for now. You know what I'm saying? I say for now because I see glimpses of it. Like, he gets excited about his mother, but he also spends a lot of time with me, and I almost feel like, you know, he says "I love you" to me in a way that seems far more natural than I get from my older son. And it may just be my, like, just me thinking that, you know what I'm saying? But it just feels like we have a bond that was created because of unfortunate situation that happened where I had to kind of, you know, really, you know, hold him close and make sure that he got what he needed as a newborn because my wife just couldn't deal with all of everything that was happening at one time.
No, John, I will say they do say it differently depending on the child. And I'm not talking about your situation. I'm talking about the "I love you" statement that you just made. So my boys, they split time between my house and their mom's house. And so when I take them back to their mom's house, I drop them off. And the last thing I say, because I'm not ashamed, I feel like we should definitely let our kids know we love them. You know, is the last thing I say to them every time is, you know, "I love y'all." And there is a difference between the one that I said that's more like a daddy's boy, the way he says "I love you," in comparison to the one I said that's more like a mama's boy, the way he says "I love you." There is a difference. So there may be that, like you said, you feel like, you know, Wyatt says "I love you" differently to you than you feel like Trey says "I love you" differently to you. There truly may be a difference, just in my opinion, because I know it is with my kids.
Well, I mean, look, I like it either way. I like hearing it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just it's interesting because, you know, but Wyatt also tells me sometimes that he doesn't like me because I'm not nice to him. And I'm like, when am I not nice to you? When I tell you have to go sit down? That boy gets away with everything. That's
Like,
a whole.
I ain't supposed to be nice to you. How about that?
Wyatt get away with everything. That kid is. But so look, this has been amazing. This has been an awesome conversation. I love talking to you guys, and you guys were there when the kind of idea came to its almost its final stage of actually getting to this point, right? Like we sat here together during COVID. We probably wasn't supposed to be in the same room together, but
I had my mask on.
We all good. We all good. We
socially distant though.
we did. We it was good. And everybody is okay. Nobody's sick. That was weeks ago, and we are still here. But I appreciate you all, and that was actually on my birthday. So everybody came down for my birthday, and we had a conversation that was born out of that conversation. So I appreciate you guys, being here for this conversation. I love talking to you all. I hope you guys will come back to the podcast and talk some more. I'm hoping to do some other things with this. So thank you guys both for being here, for being a part of this, for being a part of my son's lives. And I hope to hear more of your daddy confessions in the future.
Hey man,
for sure.
Yeah, man, appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely, John. I appreciate you, doing this, having this forum for us fathers to talk, because it's a lot to talk about. So I hope you got some good conversations. I'll be back whenever you need me, bro.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Thank you guys so much. All right. Appreciate it.